Hi, this is Dr. Walt Jernigan, and welcome to our lecture from the Appendix on Statistical Methods. Here's an overview of the important concepts I'd like to cover: operational definition, statistics, and descriptive statistics, measures of central tendency including the mean, the median, and the mode, measures of variability, the range, and standard deviation, normal distribution, and inferential statistics. We'll begin with the operational definition. An operational definition is a way of assigning numerical values to a variable that cannot be directly observed. The issue frequently comes up in psychology when we look at things related to the mind or mental processes. We can use the example of love. Now, love may be a thought and a feeling. That's hard to observe. But we could agree on behaviors as an operational definition. Your operational definition of love is just as good as mine. It's important that we spell it out so that other researchers have an exact idea of how we measured it in our study. For example, we could say that we studied couples in love, and they were defined as spending 75% of the time holding hands or gazing into each other's eyes. Maybe the operational definition could be that they complemented each other 50% of the time. Another operational definition could be that these were couples who positioned their chairs within 24 inches of each other, measured by a tape measure. Statistics is a term defined as mathematical techniques that are used to analyze data. And descriptive statistics are mathematical techniques used to organize, summarize, and describe data. We often like to visually represent our data with a frequency distribution. This is called a frequency histogram. In this example, the horizontal axis may represent calendar time, such as the months of the year, and the vertical axis could represent how much money your class raised each month to take a trip to Europe this upcoming summer. Here's another common visual representation of data called a pie chart. The important thing to remember with descriptive statistics is that we're not trying to generalize our data or use it to predict to other groups. Central tendency is a measure to describe the center or middle. The three common measures of central tendency are the mean, which is the arithmetic average, the median, or the middle score, and the mode, which is the most frequent score. As we'll see, the mean is the most common measure of central tendency. In your book, look at the table titled Carl's Psychology Test Scores. Carl takes 7 tests. We add up the value and divide by 7 tests. The mean is 80. This is the arithmetic average, and it's a very useful measure because there's not a great deal of variability. Now let's look at the table titled Annual Income for 10 People. We add this up, and the mean is $124,000. However, this is not representative. This is not a good average measure. Why? Because when you look at the distribution, nobody came close to making $124,000. We had some extreme salaries here, from $1 million all the way down to $10,000. A better measure of central tendency would be the median, which is to look at the middle score represented on the graph, and that's $27,000. The mode is the most frequent score. In this distribution, we had 2 people make $22,000. That would be the mode. The median or the mode, either one, would be a much better measure of central tendency in this example. Variability. We define this as how much the scores in a distribution spread out away from the mean. 2 common measures of variability are the range and the standard deviation. Let's begin with the range. Look at the table titled Comparison of Range and Standard Deviation for 2 small groups of scores having identical means and medians. And you can see when we look at these Group 1 and Group 2, they have the same mean of 80. They have the same median. They look to be very similar, don't they? However, the range is the difference between the highest and lowest scores. Group 1 has a range of 47. Group 2, on the other hand, has a range of 7. The range is much smaller in Group 2. The data are much more similar to one another. In Group 1, it looks like there's a lot of A's and several F's. But in Group 2, we have people with a lot of B's and C's. As a researcher, we generally like distributions of scores with a small range. It means the distribution is consistent, and we have more confidence in that data. The range is the easiest way to determine variability. A standard deviation, on the other hand, is a measure of the average amount that scores vary from the mean. Again, we look at the same table. The standard deviation in Group 1 is 18.1. In Group 2, it's 2.14. And that should not surprise us, given that we've already determined the ranges. Again, the smaller the standard deviation, the more consistent our results are, and it's easier to draw conclusions. Another important term I'd like to mention is the normal distribution. The normal distribution is represented by a bell curve to show how scores are normally distributed in a population. We call it the bell curve because the shape does remind you of the outline of a bell. Here's what it really looks like on paper. Most scores fall in the middle, with the extremes in either direction being less and less frequent. You can see a picture of a normal curve in your appendix. Finally, I'd like to mention inferential statistics. Inferential statistics allows us to make an inference about the population from a sample. Inferential statistics really goes beyond the scope of our course. But those of you going on to a 4-year program studying psychology or education, you will study inferential statistics. It's about making an inference from descriptive data. This is frequently done in political polling, where we take a sample of people and use inferential statistics to determine, can we predict how people will vote in the future? Key ideas in inferential statistics involve the population and a sample. Notice how pollsters often say the results can be plus or minus 3 points in either direction. Again, inferential statistics is beyond the scope of our class. We're mostly interested in descriptive statistics and the 2 main ideas of central tendency and variability. That's all for now. Take care. Bye-bye.